Success does not mean in the absence of failures. Success means the achievement of ultimate goal. It means the winning of the war, not every battle. Good morning. Today, one of the most important topic that we are going to discuss, it's actually kinds of the constitution. Kinds of the constitution. Let me begin with a simple question. Why do different countries have different system of governance? And why is the system in India is different from the system of UK, USA, Russia, Switzerland? The answer lies in their constitutions. Constitution is not just a legal document. It outlines how the system functions, how the power is distributed, how the rights are protected, and how the institutions functions. In this video lecture, you shall be in a position to explore various kinds of the constitution. And by the end of this lecture, you shall be able to clearly know what are the different kinds or types of the constitution. And you can relate them with the other real countries. So let's begin our journey, that is the kinds of the constitution. The first kind that you need to keep in mind, one of the most important, that is written constitution. So what do you mean by written constitution? Now listen, written constitution is actually, it is a formal document. Written constitution is a formal document. So when it comes to written constitution, it is actually formal document. Sir, what is the function of this formal document? You know, the first function of this formal document is it outlines what? The powers of the different governments. So first, you must keep in mind, the first kind of the constitution is written constitution. Written constitution क्या है? ये एक formal document है. When I say formal document, it means it has been created in a systematic way. It means it has been codified in a single document. And what it do? It outlines what the distribution of power. It outlines the powers of different governments, powers of the state government, powers of the central government, etc., etc. And number two that you need to keep in mind, that is this written constitution. Now you got to know it is a formal document. And second thing, when it comes to this written constitution, it is rigid in nature. It is rigid in nature. So what do we mean by rigid? Rigid means it specifies a defined set of procedures to amend the constitution. Means there are some special provisions, there are some special rules, there are some special methods that this written constitution provided just to amend the constitution. In other words, written constitution is difficult to amend. There are a number of provisions in the written constitutions which are difficult to amend. We cannot easily amend those very provisions. Even in Indian constitution, which is written in nature, there are set of provisions which cannot be easily amended, and they need a very special privilege and like a special majority, etc., etc. That is a secondary question, but the primary question is, this is rigid in nature. When I say rigid in nature, it means it is difficult to amend. It is not so easy to amend this type of constitution. And number third, that you need to keep in mind, it is created in a systematic way. It is created in a systematic way. In a systematic way. What do we mean by created in a systematic way? It means usually this type of constitution is framed or created by a representative body. Representative body, and this representative body is commonly known as Constituent Assembly. So when it comes to Constituent Assembly is actually a group of representatives, and this is the body which is given the responsibility to frame and write down the constitution for a country. For example, 1946 में क्या हुआ था? On the cabinet mission plan, a constituent assembly was constituted. Why? To frame the constitution for India. And this constituent assembly had number of committees, and one of the most important committee was drafting committee. And the head of drafting committee was Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. And what Bhimrao Ambedkar did along with the committee, that is drafting committee, they framed a draft of the constitution and then submit it to the Constituent Assembly. So long story short, Constituent Assembly एक representative bodies है, इसमें एक group of people होते हैं जिनको एक ही जिम्मेदारी दी जाती है कि भाई साहब आपको एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेम करना है, आपको एक दस्तूर बनाना है, आपको एक ड्राफ्ट बनाना है. You have to write down the future of India, that is the constitution. अब रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऐसा होता है, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, जब भी रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन कहेंगे हम, इसका मतलब यह है कि कभी इसके लिए कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली इलेक्ट और नॉमिनेट हुई होगी जिसने इस रिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को लिखा होगा. ये इवॉल्व नहीं होता है, ये एक स्पेसिफिक टाइम में एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली उस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को कोडिफाई करती है. इसीलिए जो भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दैट इज बीइंग रिटन बाय दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली इज एक्चुअली इट इज आल्सो नोन एज कोडिफाइड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. Written constitution is also known as codified constitution. Why codified constitution? Because a set of basic laws or principles are codified in the written constitution by this constituent assembly. So this is a prerequisite. When it comes to written constitution, one of the most important thing in written constitution is it is a formal document. It is a single document, and this single document has been created in a systematic way, usually by the representative body that is commonly known as Constituent Assembly. And this Constituent Assembly, how and when it is decided by the very country, we need not to go deep in this, but Constituent Assembly is the main body which is being given the responsibility to codify it, and that is why this constitution is also known as codified constitution or formal document. Okay, so is it in line with the current circumstances? The answer is yes or no. The answer is both. There are some provisions in the written constitution which are flexible in nature, which can be easily amended, but when it comes to quick response, so there are few provisions, a number of provisions in this constitution which are rigid in nature, which cannot be easily amended and which cannot be in line with the when there comes a shift in the economic and political aspects. So let's come to the next type of this constitution, that is what is commonly known as unwritten constitution. Unwritten constitution. Unwritten constitution. So what do we mean by unwritten constitution? An unwritten constitution is an unwritten constitution is not contained in a single document. In a single document. So first thing, what is an unwritten constitution? Unwritten constitution is the constitution which is not contained in a single document. And number two that you need to remember, unwritten constitution derives. Unwritten constitution derives from various sources. Various sources. Sir, what are the sources? What are the sources from which unwritten constitution gets derived? It is actually sometimes it involves conventions. It involves norms. It involves acts of parliament. It involves customs, etc., etc. So what is unwritten constitution? Number one that you need to keep in mind that unwritten constitution एक ऐसा constitution होता है जो पहली चीज किसी भी सिंगल डॉक्यूमेंट में नहीं होता है. आप किसी भी अनरिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को सिंगल डॉक्यूमेंट में फाउंड नहीं कर सकते. दूसरी चीज, अनरिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में बहुत सारी चीजें जो है जहां से अनरिटन जो है वो डिराइव होता है. अनरिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का जो सोर्स बनता है वो होती है कन्वेंशंस, वो होती है नॉर्म्स, वो होती है एक्ट्स ऑफ पार्लियामेंट, वो होती है कस्टम्स. एंड नो कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली is needed when it comes to this unwritten constitution, sir. Why? Because it evolves over time. It evolves over time. यानी कि ये वक्त के साथ साथ इवॉल्व करता है. And sometimes it is also known as evolved constitution. Why? Because it gets evolved from time to time. It is not a single day. It is not a single year when this constitution is written down. Actually, it takes years after years. It takes around, it may take 10 years, it may take 100 years, it may take 200 years. And there is not a specific time when we take that now this constitution on this day it was adopted and enacted. This is not the case when it comes to unwritten constitution. Actually, it is not codified in that way. It is not codified in single document. It actually gets up just from conventional norms, acts of parliament. It derives its authority from these objectives like conventional norms, acts of parliament, etc., etc. But there is one thing that is beautiful when it comes to unwritten constitution. It can be easily amended. It has flexibility. It is very flexible in nature. Why? Because in case of emergencies, there is an ease of amendments. Through an ordinary process, Parliament can alter the basic laws in the Parliament and can set the baselines of the government. Okay, so this is, but unfortunately, sometimes this unwritten constitution becomes the tool of ruling class. It becomes the tool of ruling class. Tool of ruling class. It means कभी कभार ऐसा होता है कि अनरिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को अपनी जो है ना अपना सेल्फिश इंक्रीज मतलब अपना to cater one's interests, any party can make it as a tool, means to get one's vested interests, to वो है ना अपना उल्लू सीधा करने के लिए कभी कभार एक रूलिंग पार्टी इस अनरिटन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का गलत इस्तेमाल भी कर सकता है. सो लेकिन ब्यूटी ये है कि इसको ये अडॉप्ट किया जा सकता है अकॉर्डिंग टू सिचुएशन. इसको अमेंड किया जा सकता है, अल्टर किया जा सकता है. एंड इट एम्पावर्स द पार्लियामेंट टू अल्टर एनी प्रोविजंस विद वेरी ईज. देयर इज नॉट एनी स्पेशल प्रोसीजर, difficult method, rigidness. It is very simple. Through an ordinary process we can change any or we can alter any basic law in the constitution. This is flexibility, but at the same time it can be used as a tool of ruling class to just for the power, just for the sake of power. Okay, so let's come to the next type of this constitution. That's actually what that is actually flexible constitution. Flexible constitution. Flexible constitution. So what do you mean by flexible constitution? What do you mean by flexible constitution? Simple. Flexible constitution is one which is easy to amend. Easy to amend. यानी कि फ्लेक्सिबल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऐसा होता है कि अगर पार्लियामेंट चाहेगी कि हमने कोई भी प्रोविजन, कोई चेंज लानी है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, कोई अमेंडमेंट लानी है, then parliament is being empowered to bring such kind of amendment through an ordinary process. They need not to make the use of defined procedures, special majority, but through simple majority they can amend any law. They need what? Simple majority. By virtue of simple majority से वो कोई भी चीज amend कर सकते हैं. For example, take the instance of India. In India is a written constitution, but still there are number of provisions in the constitution which are flexible in nature. Flexible in nature. It means Parliament can make the use of this flexibility to amend the constitution. They can easily change many provisions in the constitution. For example, there's Article 3 which empowers the Parliament to make internal readjustment into say. This is the law, means Parliament can easily change it. Okay, so let's come to the next, that is rigid constitution. Rigid constitution. Okay, rigid constitution. So what do you mean by rigid constitution? Rigid constitution is one rigid constitution एक ऐसा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, इट हैज डिफाइनड प्रोसीजर्स और जिनको हम कहेंगे स्पेशल प्रोसीजर्स टू अमेंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। तो सिंपल भाषा में अगर हम कहेंगे कि रिजिड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एक ऐसा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है जिसको अमेंड करना बड़ा डिफिकल्ट है। इट्स नॉट एन इजी प्रोसेस टू अमेंड सम प्रोविजंस इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। Okay, for example, in Indian Constitution is both rigid and flexible, and when it comes to some provisions which are very difficult to amend, but some provisions are very flexible which are easy to amend. But when it comes to rigid constitution, some constitutions are wholly and solely rigid. Why? Because there are set of procedures that are given, special methods are being given to amend the constitution. Such constitution cannot be easily amended. Such constitution, it's very difficult to amend such constitution, and it becomes difficult even at that time when we need to change or alter some laws in the constitution. Okay, so let's come to the next type of this constitution, that is unitary type of constitution. Unitary type of constitution. So what do you mean by unitary type of constitution? यूनिटरी टाइप ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऐसा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, ये ऐसी स्टेट में पाया जाता है जहां पे क्या होगा, यूनिटरी सिस्टम होगा। क्या होगा? जहां पे यूनिटरी सिस्टम होगा। व्हाट डज इट मीन? वायर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट इज ऑल पावरफुल। वायर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट इज ऑल पावरफुल। So in this country where there is unitary constitution makes the central government all powerful. But when it comes to, there is also distribution of power or division of power, but it is just for the sake of convenience. वो convenience के basis पे है। Actually constitution यहाँ पे distribute नहीं करता है powers in between central and state government, but actually central government जो होती है वो powers को distribute करती है among the state ones, 1, 2, 3, etc., just for the sake of administrative convenience. Otherwise, in this type of state where there is unitary type of constitution, central government is all powerful. सारे के सारे पावर सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के हाथ में होती है। ये चाहेगी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को पावर देगी, नहीं चाहेगी तो नहीं देगी। But when it comes to the next type of the constitution, it is actually federal constitution. Federal constitution is what? Federal constitution ऐसी स्टेट में पाया जाएगा जो स्टेट्स क्या होगी, विच आर फेडरल इन नेचर, जहां पे फेडरलिज्म होगा। सर फेडरलिज्म कहां पे पाया जाता है? यूएसए में पाया जाता है। सर फेडरलिज्म कहां पे पाया जाता है? इंडिया में पाया जाता है। सर फेडरलिज्म कहां पे पाया जाता है? कनाडा में पाया जाता है, स्विट्जरलैंड में पाया जाता है। तो जितनी भी फेडरल स्टेट्स होती है, यहाँ का जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन होता है, इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने क्लियरली डिफाइन किए होते हैं व्हाट आर द पावर्स ऑफ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड व्हाट आर द पावर्स ऑफ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट। सो टू कट लॉन्ग स्टोरी शॉर्ट, यहाँ पे आपको जो चीज याद रखनी है कि अगर हम इट कम्स टू फेडरलिज्म, देयर इज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल डिवीजन ऑफ पावर्स बिटवीन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एंड स्टेट गवर्नमेंट। टेक द इंस्टेंस ऑफ इंडियन constitution also clearly defines what the powers of both the central government and state government. For example, there is a union list, and union list contains the items जिन पे खाली लॉ कौन बनाएगा, जिन पे सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट लॉ बनाएगा। किस लिस्ट पे? यूनियन लिस्ट पे। यानी कि यूनियन लिस्ट एक ऐसा लिस्ट है कि जिस पे, ये ऐसा लिस्ट है जो हमने सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को दिया, जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने क्या किया है, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को दिया है, और इसमें वो तमाम आइटम लिखे हैं, लाइक इसमें डिफेंस है, इसमें करेंसी है, इसमें कम्युनिकेशन है, इसमें फॉरेन पॉलिसी है। इन सारी चीजों पे खाली सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट लॉ बना सकती है। लेकिन स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के पास एक अलग लिस्ट है जिसको हम कहते हैं स्टेट लिस्ट। क्या कहते हैं? स्टेट लिस्ट। तो स्टेट लिस्ट आल्सो कंटेन्स नंबर ऑफ आइटम्स, and where it is actually state which is being empowered to make laws on all those items which are contained in the state list. For example, there is police, there is law and order, etc. So long story short, Federal Constitution is that constitution which clearly specifies the powers of both central government and state government. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.